The Kefmoran Shadow Stalker moved through the dense undergrowth of Kepler 442b's alien force with predatory grace that had evolved over millions of years. Standing nearly 3 meters tall when fully extended, its obsidian carapace gleamed, weighty in the dying light of the system's twin suns. 6 razor-sharp limbs carried it silently across the forest floor, while its triangular head swiveled constantly, scanning for prey with compound eyes that could detect movement across 17 different spectrums. For 3 rotations, it had been tracking the scent trail that led to the new settlement. The strange bipedal creatures had arrived in their metal shells, carving out a space in what had been pristine hunting grounds. The Kefmoran's kind had claimed this territory for countless generations, and these soft, slow-moving intruders would make excellent sport. As the village came into view through the tree line, the Shadow Stalker's mandibles clicked with anticipation. The structures were primitive compared to the crystalline cities of its own, species-simple metal and polymer constructions that wouldn't withstand even a casual assault. Perfect for what it had planned. The creature had studied these humans for days, learning their patterns. The adults carried primitive projectile weapons and seemed perpetually alert, but they were clumsy and loud. Their young, however, wandered freely during certain periods, apparently under the misguided assumption that their settlement was safe. Tonight, it would take one of their cubs. The screams would draw out the rest, and then the real hunt could begin. The Shadow Stalker positioned itself at the village's edge, hidden behind a cluster of the planet's massive fern analogs. Through the transparent barriers of one dwelling, it could see its target, a small human cub, no more than a few breeding cycles old, sitting alone in what appeared to be a food preparation area, with movements that had never failed to deliver prey. The Kefmoran approached the structure. Its claws found purchase on the smooth walls, and it began its ascent toward what primitive sensors indicated was an opening in the upper section. The child inside was engaged in some meaningless activity, manipulating small objects on a flat surface. Perfect. It would never see death coming. The Shadow Stalker slithered through the aperture with fluid precision, its form seeming to pour like liquid darkness into the room. It had done this countless times before drop from above, strike with overwhelming force, drag the prey away before others could respond. Simple, efficient, inevitable. But as it positioned itself directly above the small human, something unprecedented occurred. The child looked up. Instead of the piercing shriek of terror that should have followed, the small human's features arranged themselves into what the Kefmoran's tactical systems couldn't immediately classify. The tiny mouth curved upward, and the child produced a series of rhythmic vocalizations that seemed to express pleasure. "Ooh, pretty," the child said, clapping its diminutive hands together. "Are you here to play?" The Shadow Stalker froze, its killing strike suspended mid-motion. In 17 years of hunting, across 4 different worlds, no prey had ever reacted this way. The child should be paralyzed with fear, not looking at it with those bright, curious eyes. "You're really big," the human cub continued, apparently oblivious to the fact that it was addressing the apex predator of an entire ecosystem. "I like your shiny shell. Is it hard like my toy beetle?" Before the Kefmoran could process this development, the child stood and waddled toward a nearby surface, returning with a small circular object held in both hands. "Are you hungry? Mommy made cookies today. They're chocolate chip. That's my favorite." The child held up the offering, stretching its short arms toward the creature that had come to kill it. The Shadow Stalker's mind reeled. This was not predator and prey behavior. This was something else entirely. Something its species had no framework for understanding. The sweet scent from the small object reached its chemoreceptors, and to its surprise, the smell triggered no aggressive responses. Instead, something deeper and more primal stirred within its consciousness, a recognition it couldn't name. "It's okay if you're scared," the child continued, still holding out the cookie. "I was scared of the dark until Daddy showed me that shadows are just places where light is taking a nap." The Kefmoran found itself lowering its killing limbs, then descending to the child's level. Up close, it could see details it had missed from its surveillance. The trusting openness in those alien eyes. The complete absence of deception or fear. With movements more careful than any it had ever made, the shadow stalker extended one razor-sharp claw toward the offered treat. The child giggled again, a sound that somehow bypassed every predatory instinct and struck directly at something the creature hadn't known existed within itself. "You have to be gentle," the child instructed seriously. "Cookies are fragile, like flowers and butterflies and feelings." As the Kefmoran carefully accepted the small offering, it experienced something that would have been impossible to explain to its packmates. The child's unconditional trust, offered to a creature that could have ended its life in an instant, created a cognitive dissonance that rewrote fundamental assumptions about the nature of existence. "What's your name?" the child asked. "I'm Emma. I'm 4 3/4." The shadow stalker had no individual designation in its own language, only a classification marker. But looking into Emma's expectant face, it found itself wishing it did. Hours later, when Emma's parents returned to find their daughter showing her new friend how to properly dunk cookies in milk, they would learn something that would change human-Kefmoran relations forever. Sometimes the most powerful weapon in the galaxy isn't a gun or a bomb or superior technology. Sometimes it's simply the radical act of treating a monster like a friend. The shadow stalker never returned to its pack. Instead, it became the first of its species to discover what humans had always known, that connection could triumph over conquest, and that a child's laughter could transform even the deadliest predator into a protector. And in the years that followed, when other Kefmoran hunters came prowling around human settlements, they would find themselves face to face with the most unlikely guardian imaginable, one who had learned that cookies shared in friendship were infinitely more satisfying than prey taken in violence. The galaxy, it turned out, was full of predators, but it was also full of children with cookies. And given enough time, the children always won.